So we begin the Gemara today on the bottom, the last line of Daf Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara was speaking about the king Daryavish. Actually, the Gemara said that he has three names: Daryavish, Kairish, and Artaxshasta. It's the same person. And Rabbi Yitzchak here said that Kaidim Shehechmitz and Lacha Shehechmitz. That in the beginning they treated him like a Yiddish king and they counted his years from Nisan. But then after he became a Rasha, they started counting his years from Tishrei like a Goyish king. So the next piece of Gemara, till the end of the sugya here, we'll discuss this subject. Where do we see that this Daryavish became a Rasha? Maskef Lord Rav Kahana asked the question, Mi Hechmitz, did he become a Rasha? But V'hoksiv, it says in the Pasuk, that this is over here a Pasuk in Ezra, he sent a message together with Ezra when he came to Eretz Yisrael, and he sent the following message. Uma choshchon, and whatever it is that they want, whatever the Kohanim want for the Beis HaMikdash, uvnei Teirin, whether it's the bulls, dichrin, rams, imrin, sheep, la'alon, la'lekosh maya, to bring as karbanis for the Eibishter, chantin, if they want wheat, melach, salt, chamar, wine, moshach is oil, any of these things that they need, k'mayme kahana de Yerushalayim, whatever the Kohanim say in Yerushalayim, in Yerushalayim, lehavim isyav lohem, you should give it to them. Yaim b'yaim, every single day, diloi shalu, and don't fail to give this to them. So we see over here that even later, after the Beis HaMikdash was built, he gave this command that they should provide for Yidden whatever they need. So why are you saying that later he became a Rasha? Amalei Rabbi Yitzchak. So Rabbi Yitzchak answered this question that was asked on his answer. He said, Rabbi, the answer is mitu nach, from your load. In other words, from the very pasuk itself that you're bringing, that he was still a tzaddik. If you continue reading over there in the next pasuk, you'll see that really he was a Rasha. Why? What does it say in the next pasuk? So it says over there, the leheven mahakrivin, that the Daryavish, when he sent this message, he should give to Yidden whatever they want. So he says, you know why? The leheven mahakrivin yichaychen lelekosh maya, so that they should bring the karbanis for the Eibishter, umatzlin, and then that they should daven l'chayim malka o benoi. They should daven for the life of the king and his children. So what do we see over here? That the only reason he wanted to give the Yidden all these karbanis is for personally, for himself, so that the Yidden should daven for him, but not that he was doing it l'shma. So here we see that he became a Rasha. But the Gemara asks him this, no, what's wrong with this? And someone that does this, that he's giving such kind of tzedakah, he says, give Yidden everything they need, even if it's shaloi l'shma, that's not good. But Vatanya, we learned in the Braise, ha'oime sel azul tzedakah. Person says, I'm giving this sela for tzedakah. Why? B'shvil sheyichyu b'ni, or b'shvil she'eska balachai olam haba. And I'm doing it for the purpose, for the health. I should be zeicha for health for my children, and also for olam haba. So the Braisa says, Harei zet tzaddik omer. Even though he did it shaloi l'shma, is it tzaddik omer? So if so, Daryavish is also a tzaddik omer. So the Gemara answers, Loi kashya. This is not a question. Kam b'Yisrael, and kam b'Ovdei Kechavim. It matters if we're speaking about a Yid, or we're speaking about a guy. By a Yid, if he gives tzedakah shaloi l'shma, so then Rashi explains what's the reason for the difference. So Rashi says, by a Yid, even if he gives tzedakah shaloi l'shma, because sheyichya b'ni, even if chas v'shalom, his wish will not be fulfilled and his son will not live, but he knows that the Eibishter gave him whatever he has to, and he still does not have charata from the tzedakah that he gave. Whereas by a guy, if he does it for this purpose, and then the Eibishter doesn't give him what he wants, so then the guy complains and the guy doesn't want to give tzedakah anymore. That's the reason Rashi says. If you look over here in Taisvis, it's interesting Taisvis, the first Taisvis on the page, he says that it says in the Mishnah, Al tiya kavodim b'mishamshem esarav al manas lekabel pras. Shouldn't be like a servant serving just for the schar. So he says, Hainu b'umas ha'elam, or the other gears over here is Hainu ke'umas ha'elam shatayin ala rishaynis. That only refers to someone that he's doing it for the schar, and when he sees that he doesn't receive the schar, he regrets doing the mitzvah. But if you do it for the schar, and you're not regretting what you did, so then that's not what the Mishnah was speaking about. So from this Taisus, it's mashma that what it says over here in the Gemara is not only tzedakah, because when you look in the Gemara, you would think, or some actually say that the Gemara here is speaking dafka about tzedakah. By tzedakah, since the main purpose is that the poor person got the tzedakah. So therefore, even if it was shalei l'shma, the objective of the mitzvah was fulfilled. Mashenke by a mitzvah that's been adon la'makain, what it says over here, arei zet tzaddik gomer, doesn't apply. So then the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos is understood simply. That's talking about things that are b'nol lamakim. But from Taisus it's mashma that no, this Indian is by everything, by any mitzvah. It doesn't make a difference. Yeah. Okay, in Chassidus it explains this concept a drop differently than the way Rashi says it, at least in the Pashtus. In Chassidus it says that by a goy, it's different when he does a shalei lishma than by a yid. Why? Because by a yid, even if he does something shalei lishma, the taich of the shalei lishma is lishma. Really, he's doing it for the right reason. His neshama wants to do the mitzvah. Elamai b'chitzonius, his nefesh bahamas is giving him all kinds of motives, but he's doing it for the right reason. Mashenkin by a guy that does something shalei lishma, adarab. By a guy, everything a guy does, as Alter Rebbe says in Tanya in Perek Aleph, legarmayo. He's doing it for selfish sake. So therefore, if you see a guy that does something lishma, he's from the Chassidei Umas Ha'olam, so then he's a tzaddik. But otherwise, he's doing it legarmayo for himself. Yeah, that's a good question. Chanami, it's a good question. Mr. Yavish was a yid, yeah. Huh? Yeah, Chanami. His father was a guy, yeah. Okay, Kupano, it's a good question. Okay, now the Gemara brings another source for the fact that he became a Rasha. If you want, I'll give you another answer. Minol and the Achmitz. How do we know that he became a Rasha? The Chsiv, there's a pasuk over there, it says, also it describes when he sent up a message how they should build a Beis HaMikdash. So he said, Nidbachin, the Even Golul Klosa, the rows of there should be good quality bricks or stones that they should build, 3 rows of stones, and v'nidmach di'ah chodas, and then there should be a row of new timber, wood they should build in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, and then it said v'nafkese, all the expenses min beis malkese tisyav, the expenses should come from the king. So the question over here is, why when he built the Beis HaMikdash did he put wood into it? Usually either you build a house of wood or you build from bricks or from stone. Over here he said that they should put in also wood in, even though they're building it from bricks. So why did he do this? Savar, because he thought to himself, if the Eden are going to rebel against me, so then there's going to be wood in it and I'll be able to burn the Beis HaMikdash in the fire. So we see he became a Rasha. Fragt the Gemara, how could you say that? Shlomo Melech didn't build in the same way. Doesn't it say, Shloisha Ture Gazes, 3 rows of bricks, and Vetur Kreisas Harazim, and a row of wood cut from cedar trees. So you see that he also built with wood inside. And for the Gemara, there's a big difference. Shlomo Avad Mulmaila. Shlomo put the wood on top of the rows of the bricks. But V'i Avad Mulmata. He put the wood at the bottom. When you put the wood at the bottom, that serves as the foundation. If a fire happens and the wood at the bottom burns, so the whole thing collapses. Whereas if the wood is on the top, it doesn't collapse in the same way. Another point the Gemara says, Shlomo Shake Bibinyana. Shlomo HaMelech included wood, but it was sunk into the building. It wasn't like an integral part outside of the building. But he, the Yavish, did not sink it further inside the building. A third point, Shlomo Sadye Beside. Shlomo HaMelech, even the wood that was used, it was plastered, it was covered, it wouldn't be flammable, it wouldn't be exposed to the fire. He, when he said to build a Beis HaMikdash with this wood, it was not covered with plaster. It's like the Gemara, a third source, Rav Yosef, Viteim Rabbi Yitzchak said, Minol and Achmetz, where we see that the Yavish became a Rasha Mehacha. From this pasuk, where it says, as we quoted before, Vayemel li HaMelech va'ashegel yesheves etzlai. The king answered me, and the shegel was sitting near him. So shegel, I touched before when we learned the Gemara that it refers to his wife that was sitting near him. So, but now the Gemara says, my shegel. What does it mean that the shegel was sitting near him? Omer Rabba bar Lima mishmei derav kalbesa. He had a female dog that was sitting next to him, and he was a Rasha. He was having relations with a female dog. Okay, so this is the source that he became a Rasha. So now the Gemara is going to focus on this Raya here and bring you different places where it uses the term shegel, and it doesn't seem like shegel means a female dog. Elameyato hadechsiv. There's a pasuk that says in a different place. This is not benegated to Daryavish. This is actually benegated to Belshazzar, which was the king before Achashverosh. So he was a Rasha, and he took the kalim of the Beis HaMikdash and brought them to Shushan. So it says there in the pasuk, "Valmara Shmaya Yisrael Mamta," and you rose up against the Eibishter. Ulamanai de Beise Hevesiv Kadamach, and the kalim of the Beis HaMikdash are there in front of you. and Va'ant, and you, V'Rav Revanech, and the noblemen amongst you, and Sheglosech, which Gemara is going to, usually Sheglosech means, and the queen, but over here, and V'Lecheinosech, and the Pilakshim, that are with you, Chamra Shasim behind. They were drinking wine. That's what it says in the pasuk. So what does it say here? Sheglosech. It says that the shegel was drinking wine. Frek the Gemara, vi shegel kalbasa. He's saying that shegel means a female dog. Kalbasa bas mishtich chamrehi. A dog drinks wine. What does this mean? So the Gemara says, yeah, it's possible. Holekashya. That's not a question on the pshat that they said before. The milfala, they trained it, vishasya, and it drank wine. So yeah, it's possible that a dog drinks wine. The Gemara brings another place where we find the term shegel. Elamayata the Chsiv, there's a pasuk in Tilim. This is actually a nevuah on the Yidden, on La'asad Lavai. It says, B'nais melachim b'kreisecha. That La'asad Lavai, the B'nais melachim are going to give glory to the Yidden. Nitzva shegel yiminecha. And the shegel will be standing there at your right side. B'kesem oifer. With gold from oifer. So the question is, what does this mean? What kind of a nevuah is this? That there's going to be a female dog by the Yidden? Vi shegel kalbasihi. If shegel refers to a dog, what kind of a nevuah is this on the Yidden, that there's going to be a dog on the right side? If you say it goes on the queens, so you say the queens will stand there by the Yidden and they'll give the glory to the Yidden. But if it refers to a female dog, what does this mean? And for the Gemara, hachikama. This is how you have to read this pasuk, this nevuah on Asad Lavai. Schar shechaviv Torah Yisrael. As a schar for this, that Torah is so beloved to Yidden. Keshegel oivde kechavim. As beloved that the Goyim have, their female dog is beloved to them, Zechisem lekesem oifer. You're going to be zeichet to the gold from oifer. So it's just a mashal. Shegel is being used as a mashal for the chavivas that you didn't have for Torah. Viba Yiseime, or another answer I can give you regarding this subject of Shegel, Lo'ilam Shegel Malkasihi. Really, the simple taich of Shegel refers to a queen, and in the other psukim that we just brought, it does refer to a queen. And the Rabbi Bar Lima Gemara Gamela, but Rabbi Bar Lima had a tradition, he had a Kabbalah, that over there by Der Yavish, when it says Shegel, it does not refer to the queen, it refers to a female dog. And Vamai Kari La Shegel, and why does the pasuk refer to it by Der Yavish as Shegel? Shaisa Chaviv Olav Keshegel. His female dog was beloved upon him like a wife, like his queen. Inami Shaishiva B'Mokim Shegel. The female dog would sit in the place where the queen would sit. Okay, so that's the taich of Shegel. Now the Gemara brings a fourth source for the fact that the Yavish became a Rasha. Ibai Seime, or another answer, Minol and Achmetz. From where do I see that he became a Rasha? Mehacha, from this pasuk here. It says, and another pasuk, this is also over there in Ezra, and it speaks about what they should provide for the Beis HaMikdash. So the Yavish sent up to say, you should give them as follows: At kesef kikrin meya, up to 100 kikar of silver, vat chintin kurin meya, 100 kur of wheat, vat chamar button meya, and there should be wine, 100 houseloads, vat button mishach meya, and the oil should be 100, umelach dilei kasav, and salt you can give them without a shear. So what do you see over here? Meikare b'lei kitzusa. In the pasuk that we quoted in the beginning of the Yamad, he said, provide whatever the kohanim want, and he didn't give any amount. V'ashtu b'kitzusa. Here he's giving a certain measure. So you see that he already became a little bit of a rasha. So he didn't give the same amount. Frek the Gemara, no, this is not a raya. V'dilma maybe meikare la v'kimle b'kitzusa in the beginning, because he didn't know how much they'll need. So he said, provide whatever the kohanim will say. And now he knew the amount, so he said, okay, this is the amount you should give them. But he wasn't trying to minimize. So therefore the answer is, like we said before, the other sources that we brought for the fact that he became a Rasha. Okay, going back to the Mishnah. The next thing it said in the Mishnah was that Chodesh Nisan is Rosh Hashanah also l'regalim, for the Yamim Tovim. So the Gemara asks, regalim be'echad b'nisanu? The Rosh Hashanah for the Yamim Tovim is on a Chodesh Nisan? B'chamishasa b'nisan. The Rosh Hashanah is b'chamishasa b'nisan. As we'll see soon in the Gemara, the point of the Rosh Hashanah here is that Pesach is the first of the Yomim Tovim, and there's a relevance for the halacha we're going to learn in a moment, that Pesach is considered to be the first. Not Sukkot is the first, not Shavuos is the first, Pesach is the first. So when's that? That's on the 15th day of Nisan, not Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So Amar Rav Chisda, you're right, that's Taka de Pshat. So what the Mishnah means to say is, Regel Shaboy Rosh Hashanah l'regalim. So the Rosh Hashanah is in this Yom Tiv, that in it you have the Rosh Hashanah l'regalim. In other words, even though it's saying Rosh Chodesh Nisan in the Mishnah, but it doesn't mean Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It means the Yom Tiv, which is in this month, which starts with Rosh Chodesh Nisan, but Ataka refers to the Yom Tiv. So now the Gemara will explain, so what difference does it make if I consider Pesach to be the first Yom Tiv, or if I consider Sukkot to be the first Yom Tiv? Nafkemine. So the relevance of this is l'noider, a person that makes a neder to bring a carbon. So when you make a neder to bring a carbon, there's a lav, bal ta'acher. You're not allowed to bring that carbon, you're not allowed to delay it, too late. When is considered to be too late? So l'meikem aleb of bal ta'acher, to be over on bal ta'acher. V'Rab Shimon hi. And this follows Rab Shimon's opinion. Rab Shimon, as we're going to see over here, says, you only over bal ta'acher when 3 Yomim Tovim pass, and only if it passes in the order. We learned this in Masechta Be'eh, yeah. And only if it passes in the order, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. If it passes in any other order, then you're not over. If it passes in this order, then you're over on Bal Ta'acher. The Tanya, we learned in the Braisa. Echadan Neider, whether a person makes a neder to bring a carbon, Vechadan Makdish, you make a neder to be Makdish something, Vechadan Mairich, which is another kind of Hekdish, you say Erki Alai, my value, I'm giving to the Beis HaMikdash. Now, so Kivin She'ovru Aleh Gimel Regalim. If 3 Yomim Tovim passed and you were not Mekayim your neder, over b'val tacher. You over on Baal tacher. Rab Shimon Omer, now Rab Shimon says it's not 3 Yomim Tovim in any order. Gimel regalim kisidron. Only if 3 Yomim Tovim pass in its order. The Chagamatzis tchila, and that's only if it passed with Chagamatzis being first. And v'chein hoya Rab Shimon ben Yochai Omer. Rab Shimon ben Yochai said the same thing. Stam Rab Shimon in the Gemara is not Rab Shimon ben Yochai, it's Rab Shimon ben Menasya. So Rab Shimon ben Yochai would say the same thing. Regalim, when it says here the Yomim Tovim, Pa'amim Gimel, sometimes if you made a neder, it's after it passes 3 Yomim Tovim. That's if you made your neder before Pesach. So then Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. Pa'amim Dalid, sometimes it'll be 4 Yomim Tovim. If you made your neder before Sukkot, so then you have to wait Sukkot to pass, and then Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And Pa'amim Chamisha. The Bryce itself spells it out. Ketzat, no, the Lefnei Pesach, the neder was made before Pesach Gimel, so then 3 Yomim Tovim pass in order, so then Yoiv Bal Tacher. Lefnei Tzeres, he made the neder before Shavuos Chamisha, so then you have to wait 5 Yomim Tovim. Lefnei Chag, if you made the neder before Sukkot, Arba, 4 Yomim Tovim. So what the Gemara here is basically saying is, our mission that says that Nisan is Rosh Hashanah l'regalim is Rab Shimon's opinion, that it has to pass in order. We'll see over here soon, there's other opinions that say, even if the Yomim Tovim don't pass in order, you're still over in Bal Tacher. Now the Gemara is going to bring a Braisa on this subject, and it's going to bring about 5 or 6 opinions about this. When exactly are you over on Bal Tacher? So Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braisa, Chayovei Hadomin, a person that's chayiv money to the Beis HaMikdash, for Ho'arochin, or the Erech that is chayiv to the Beis HaMikdash. Charomin, another kind of hektish. V'agdeishais, Chatois, Hashamois, Oilois, Shlomim, Tzedakais, Maisris, Chayr, Maisa, Pesach, all these different things that is chayiv to the Beis HaMikdash. So and leket, shikcha, peya that a person is chayiv to give. Kivin, she'ovru aleim, shloisha regalim. If you have 3 Yomim Tovim that passed, over b'val tacher. You over on Baal tacher. This is just an interesting thesis over here. Just has a relevance for Zman Hazeh. The thesis v'acharomin he brings from Rabbeinu Tam benegei tzedakah. If a person pledges to tzedakah, so thesis says if a person pledges to give tzedakah to a gabbai, this lav of Baal Ta'acher applies as well. If you don't give it to the gabbai, I guess after a certain amount of time, according to these opinions over here. But then Taisa says, but if a person stam himself makes neder to give tzedakah, not that he's giving it to a gabbai tzedakah, stam he makes a pledge to himself, I'm going to give tzedakah. So then there's no Baal Ta'acher. It's only if you're making a neder to give it to a gabbai. That's a Taisa over here. Okay. So all those after Tishrei that made a pledge from Tishrei when they sold Aliyas, there's an Indian of Baal Ta'acher. Okay, let's continue. So, when are you over Baal Ta'acher? So the Tana Kama in this Braisa says, Kivin she'ovru aleim shloisha regalim, once 3 Yomim Tovim passed, over Baal Ta'acher. You're over on Baal Ta'acher. Shimon Omer, shloisha regalim kisidron. The 3 Yomim Tovim that passed, that has to be in the right order. Chagamatzis tchila, we start with Pesach. Rab Meir says, Kivin she'over aleim regel echad. After 1 Yontif, over b'Baal Ta'acher. You're right away over on Baal Ta'acher. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, Kivin she'over aleim shnei regalim. When 2 Yomim Tovim pass, over b'Baal Ta'acher, you're going to be over. Another opinion, Rabbi Eliezer ben Shimon Omer, Kivin she'over aleim chag Sukkos, specifically when Sukkos passes, Other Yom Tovim doesn't matter. But when Sukkot passes, then Oiv Aleim B'Bal Tachar. Then you Oiv B'Bal Tachar. So now the Gemara is going to bring the source for all of these opinions. My time of the Tanakama. What's the source of the Tanakama that says that when 3 Yom Tovim pass, regardless of what the order is, you Oiv B'Bal Tachar? Mechdi. So let's see. Minayu Salik. If you look in the pasuk where it speaks about the Yom Tovim in Parshas Re'eh, it's speaking about all the Yom Tovim. Lamali lemehadaru michtav. Why does the Torah write over there again? B'chag hamatzis, b'chag hashvuos, b'chag hasukkos. At the end it says over there, Shalosh pamim b'shana, yirah kol zuchurcha, and mak mashivcha b'chag hamatzis, and it says v'lo yiras pnei Hashem reikum. Don't come empty-handed. It just said, it finished saying all the Yom Tovim. Why does it say it again? Shema Mina, this pasuk when it says Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShuos, Chag HaSukkos, is coming to teach me L'Bal Tachar. It's saying don't come empty-handed with the Nedarim that you made. Not only with the Karban Oilas Re'iyah or Shalmi Chagigi you have to bring, but with the Nedarim that after these 3 Yom Tovim will pass, you'll be Oiv Bal Tachar. That's the Tanakama source. Shimon Oimer, Rab Shimon says, has to be dafka in the right order. Ein it tzarech loymar b'Chag HaSukkos. Even if the Torah wants to repeat Chag HaMatzos and Chag HaShvuos again to tell you that you have to bring your karbanos and you shouldn't be Oiv Bal Ta'acher, but Chag HaSukkos, it wasn't necessary for the Torah to say again, Shabai Dibir HaKosov. When the Torah there says this pasuk, B'Chag HaMatzos and B'Chag HaShvuos, it comes right after it speaks about Sukkos. Sukkos is the last one mentioned there, and right afterwards it says B'Chag HaMatzos, B'Chag HaShvuos, B'Chag HaSukkos. So even if you want to repeat Chag HaMatzos and Chag HaShvuos, but it doesn't have to say Sukkos again, Lama Nema, why does it say that again? The Torah is repeating it again to tell you that it has to be in this order. Sukkot has to be the last, and Chag HaMatzos has to be the first. So you only have Bal Ta'acher if you pass these 3 Yom Tovim in order. But Rab Meir, what's the source for Rab Meir? That even if 1 Yom Tov passes, you have Bal Ta'acher. My time d'chsev uvasa shama. When you come, when you oile regel, you come to the Beis HaMikdash, v'haveisem shama, and you should bring the karbanos that you owe for the Eibishter. So it says, as soon as you come, the first Yom Tov. The Rabbanan say that pasuk is not a raya. Hahula esa. That pasuk is a mitzvah saseh. It's saying a mitzvah saseh that you should bring it. We're discussing the lois esa of Bal Ta'acher, whether you're going to be over that lois esa. You're not over our lois esa. Rab Meir says, Kivin the Amma leirachmana aisi v'lo yaisi. Since the Torah is saying the mitzvah saseh that you should bring it by the first yantav and he did not bring it, memela kam le b'Bal Ta'acher. That's the time that you also oiv on the lav. The Torah never said the timing of when you oiv on the lav. It just says don't delay. It doesn't give the timing. So since by the esed it gives the timing, so we applied the same timing for the lav as well. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said when 2 Yom Tovim pass. What's the source for his opinion? My time d'chsev eile tasel Hashem b'moy ad deichem. This is what you should bring for the Eibishter, and it brings it the karbonis and everything with dreichem, with v'seichem. This is what you should bring for the Eibishter, moy ad deichem. Mi'et moy dem shnayim. So the 2, the Lashon Rabbim refers to 2 Yom Tovim. After 2 Yom Tovim, Yoivim Bal Ta'acher. The Rabbanon don't learn from this pasuk, they learn something else. They learn from this pasuk what Rabbi Yaina said. The Torah is comparing the Yom Tovim, the karbonis of the Yom Tovim, one to another. That all the karbonis chatos that are brought in the Yom Tovim, what is that a chatos for? It's a chatos for the tzibur. For what Aveda is it for? To be mechaper on the tumas mikdash v'kedoshav that they were unaware of. Rashi brings just in the pasuk it says clearly they're going to get to Rosh Chodesh. That over there it says the lashon of losses es avayna eda. So from there we learn out that the same is also by the seidim of the regalim that it's mechaper on tumas mikdash v'kedoshav. So that's what it's coming to teach us, a different thing. Now the last opinion we mentioned before, Rabbi Eliezer ben Rab Shimon. What does Rabbi Eliezer ben Rab Shimon say? That dafke sukkis. Dafke when the yont of sukkis passes, that's when you have a Bal Ta'acher. My time, the Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer ben Rab Shimon Oimer, Lo yeyam Chag HaSukkos, the same diuk that Rab Shimon said. Even when the Torah repeats Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShvuos, Chag HaSukkos, but it doesn't have to say Chag HaSukkos. Shabai Dibir HaKosov, right there, that's what the pasuk is speaking about. It's speaking about Sukkos. Lama Nema, why does the Torah say Chag HaSukkos? Loimar Shezeh Gairim. Chag HaSukkos is the Gairim to be over on Bal Ta'acher. Leirah Panay Reikim, it says there in the pasuk, and that's the Gairim. The other Yom Tovim doesn't matter. When Sukkot passes, that's when you over Bal Ta'acher, which comes out an interesting thing according to Rabbi Eliezer Rab Shimon. If you made your neder right before Sukkot, you're going to be over right away. If you made your neder right before Pesach, so you have 3 Yom Tovim. Sukkot is when you over Bal Ta'acher. Sagt the Gemara, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Hi b'chag hamatzis u'b'chag hashvuos u'b'chag hasukos my darshu bei. They did not hold of this drasha that you have to wait 3 yomim tovim. Rav Meir held 1 yontif. Rabbi Yaakov held 2 yomim tovim. They learned that from a completely different pasuk. So according to them, why is the Torah repeating chag hamatzis, chag hashvuos, and chag hasukos? Sagt the Gemara, mi baya lehulik the Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Shia. The Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Shia, he learned out from here a different drasha. When you get to the tashlumim of a carbon. Minayin la atzeres sheyesh la tashlumin kol shiva. If you didn't bring your carbon oilas re'iyah on the first day, so you can bring it on all the other days of the Yom Tov, on Pesach, the rest of the Yom Tov, and on Sukkot, the rest of the Yom Tov. But by Shavuos, it doesn't say in the Torah the tashlumin. And Shavuos is only 1 day. So how do you know that even Shavuos, which is 1 day, you could be mashlim and bring it another 7 days? Talmud loima b'chag hamatzis, b'chag hashvuos, b'chag hasukos. Makish chag hashvuos l'chag hamatzis. I compare Shavuos to Pesach. Ma chag hamatzis yesh lo tashlumin kol shiva. Pesach, if you didn't bring it the first day, you can bring it for 7 days. Av chag hashvuos yesh lo tashlumin kol shiva. You can bring the carbon all 7 days. So the Gemara asks on this, how do you know to compare to Pesach? V'lekish l'chag hasukos. Why don't you compare Shavuos to Sukkos that's mentioned in this pasuk and say like this? Mala alon shmaina, just like Sukkos has an 8th day, and you could be mashlim the carbon all to even to Shmini Atzeres as well. Afkan shmaina, and so too Shavuos you could be mashlim 8 days. So the Gemara says, could you be mashlim 8 days? Shmini regal b'fnei atzmayu. Shmini Atzeres is a yontif for itself. You can't be mashlim the 8th day. So the Gemara says, no, but that's not true. When we say that Shmini Atzeres is a yontif for itself, that's only le'inyan pezar keshav, only for 6 things. And Rashi brings what the 6 things are over here. One is the pious. They made a lottery in the Beis HaMikdash, even though on the rest of yontif they did not. The Zayin is Zman, that you say Shechayanu. The Reish is Regel b'fnei atzmai. Rashi over here says that it has a different name. It's not called Chag HaSukkos, it's called Shmini Atzeres. In Sukkah, Rashi says that you don't sit in the Sukkah. The kuf is the carbon, has different karbanis. The shin is the shira, different shira for the carbon. And the beis is bracha. Rashi says there was a certain bracha they would say for the king on Shmini Atzeres. They set up as a special bracha for the king on Shmini Atzeres. So for those 6 things, it's a regal b'fnei atzmai. Avaleyin tashlumin, divrei akayel tashlumin derishenu. On Shmini Atzeres, you can be mashlim, you can still bring the carbon from the first days of Sukkot. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Mishalei Chag, Yom Tov Harishon Shel Chag, if you did not bring your carbon in the first days of Sukkot, Chag, Yom Tov Shel Chag, Chaygig is called a regel. You can bring the entire Sukkot, and also the Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag. You could also bring the last day of Yom Tov. So our question comes back. If you're comparing Shavuos to Pesach, why are you comparing to Pesach? Maybe compare it to Sukkot. And for the Gemara, tafasta meruba, loy tafasta, tafasta mu'ah tafasta. If you have an option to compare to Sukkot or to compare to Pesach, one is 7 days and one is 8 days, so you don't know which one to compare, so you take the one that's less. If you're going to take the one that's more, so I'm going to ask you why you're taking the one that's more, so you always take the one that's less. Okay, what now? The Gemara afterwards will explain what you learn out from the comparison to Pesach to Sukkot as well, why it says that there as well. We'll see in Mitzvah tomorrow.